Welcome in, everybody. We're diving deep today into the Stanton House Data Analytics and AI 2025 Salary Guide.
And it's funny you say salary guide because this is really so much more than just, your typical salary tables.
Really, like way more.
It's really more like a sneak peek into where these fields are headed in the UK. I mean, Stanton House, they're kind of the recruitment gurus, especially when it comes to data science and AI and machine learning, that whole world.
Exactly. They've got such a good handle on what's happening in these industries. So they've really jam-packed this guide with insights into hiring trends, skills that companies are dying for. It gives you that sense of like, okay, where's the industry headed? What's the future looking like?
Yeah, and like one of the big things that just kind of jumps out at you is the impact of AI. It's totally changing the game for how businesses do things and how they make decisions.
Okay, so let's talk AI then, because it is like the buzzword of the moment.
Yeah.
But this guide, it actually gets down into the nitty gritty. So like they talk about two main types of AI. There's generative AI, where, AI is creating stuff like content. And then there's directive AI, where AI is more about like making recommendations or guiding those decisions.
Yeah, and I think the key takeaway here is that companies really need to figure out how to use AI strategically. It's not just about having the fancy AI tools, but making them work for your business in a way that actually makes a difference.
And before you even like jump on that AI bandwagon, there's something like super important you've got to have in place.
Data readiness. It's like you could have the most amazing AI algorithms ever, but if the data you're feeding them is like, well, garbage, your results are going to be garbage too.
It's so true. And they actually use this great analogy in the guide. It's like you're trying to build a skyscraper on a foundation of sand. It's not going to work. You need that solid base of clean, organized, and reliable data.
And what I really like about Stanton House is that they're not just telling other companies to get data ready, they're doing it themselves.
Oh, I love that. So they practice what they preach.
Absolutely. In fact, they quote Karen Hendry, their data and reporting manager, in the guide, and she says that AI is transforming the way we work at Stanton House, and my role has evolved significantly as we harness its potential. A key focus for us has been ensuring that our data is AI-ready, clean, structured, and optimized so that we can fully leverage the capabilities of both our existing and new technology. AI-powered analytics help us extract deeper insights, automate reporting, and enhance decision-making across the business.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, it's one thing to talk about it, but it's another thing to actually walk the walk. And it sounds like they're really committed to making sure their data is top-notch.
For sure. That's like step one for anyone looking to really use AI, right?
Okay, so we've got that foundation in place now with the data readiness. What about the actual jobs?
Yeah.
What kinds of AI-powered roles are companies out there looking for, and like what skills are in high demand?
Well, I don't think it'll come as a surprise that there's a massive skills shortage right now, especially in, data science, machine learning, AI development, you name it. Companies are like desperate for talent in these areas. It's like a total candidates market right now, you know? And the Stanton House Guide actually lists some of those like hottest roles. They're talking AI engineers, data engineers, those AI and ML analysts, BI analysts, data governance leads, and then of course the good old data scientists.
Yeah, so those are like the established roles. But what about like the new ones, the emerging roles?
Yeah.
I bet there's some jobs out there that like didn't even exist a few years ago.
Oh, totally. And the guide highlights some super interesting ones like real-time data architects, synthetic data specialists, even AI ethicists.
Right, ethicists. Wow, that's a sign of the times, right? Like companies are really starting to think, okay, we got to, consider those ethical implications of using AI.
Yeah, definitely. It's not just about, can we do this anymore? It's also, should we,
Totally. And all this talk about AI and these emerging roles, it really highlights how important upskilling is, right? You can't just like sit back and expect your current skill set is going to, carry you through forever.
No way. Continuous learning is like non-negotiable in this field. You snooze, you lose, basically.
So what should people be focusing on? What are those key areas for upskilling?
Well, obviously, AI and ML development are huge. Cloud computing is essential. And then there's all those programming languages that are like the backbone of it all, like Python and R.
Sounds like a lot to learn, but it's also pretty exciting. All the possibilities that these technologies open up.
Oh, for sure. And it's not just like your typical tech companies that are all about data anymore. The Stanton House Guide actually talks about how private equity firms are using data in some really interesting ways.
Really? So it's not just like the Silicon Valley giants that are driving this whole data revolution.
No, not at all. Private equity firms are using it for everything from finding new investments to assessing risk to making their portfolios better.
I bet they're on the hunt for some serious data talent then.
Oh, absolutely. They're hiring data scientists, BI analysts, even chief data officers to lead their whole data strategy.
It's wild how data has become like mission critical for so many different industries, right?
Totally. And here's another cool thing the guide mentions. Private equity firms are really driving the demand for something called alternative data.
Alternative data. I'm curious, what's that all about?
Think beyond your typical financial statements and market reports, right? Alternative data includes things like satellite imagery, social media analytics, even weather patterns. They're looking for those unique data sources that give them an edge.
Wow, so they're looking for insights in some pretty unexpected places.
Sure.
It seems like the whole world of data is just constantly changing and growing.
Oh, it totally is. And that's what makes it so fun to be a part of.
Now, before we move on, there's one more really important aspect of the data analytics field that the Stanton House Guide brings up.
Diversity and inclusion.
You got it?
Yeah, it's something they're really passionate about at Stanton House, and they highlight how the data field still struggles with representation, which is, a big problem.
It is a problem, and it's not just about fairness. It's also about, creating better outcomes.
Right. The guide makes a strong case for why diversity is key for good decision-making and innovation.
So how do we actually fix it? How do we improve diversity in data? What can companies do?
The Stanton House Guide has some really good suggestions. They talk about things like, reaching out to underrepresented groups, making sure your hiring practices are fair, offering training programs, creating those flexible work environments. It's really a multi-pronged approach.
Yeah, it's not a quick fix. It's a real commitment, right?
Totally. It's about building a culture where everyone feels welcome and empowered to share their ideas and talent.
Absolutely. Now, in addition to all these super interesting insights into the future of data and analytics, the Stanton House Guide also talks about something called IR35 regulations.
Right. It's kind of niche, but it's super relevant for anyone working as a contractor in the UK. Basically, IR35 is all about figuring out if a contractor is really self-employed or should be classified as an employee for tax purposes.
And it sounds like these regulations have had a big impact on how much contractors get paid.
Oh, for sure. The guide mentions that contractors working outside IR35 are getting paid way more than those inside IR35.
Makes sense. If you're inside IR35, you're basically treated as an employee, so you pay more in taxes.
Exactly. And unfortunately, there's still a lot of confusion about IR35. The guide even says a lot of contractors haven't even gotten that status determination statement, or SDS, which is a legal requirement.
So how does Stanton House handle all this?
They're very clear about being totally compliant with IR35. They say that all their contractors get an SDS as required by law. They even encourage contractors to always ask for an SDS from any agency they work with just to make sure they're being classified, right?
That's great. They're really proactive about it and looking out for their contractors.
Absolutely. It shows how much they know and how professional they are in the UK recruitment market.
Yeah, it really sounds like they're on top of it, making sure everything's clear and legit.
Hmm.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. What are the big takeaways you think listeners should walk away with from, this whole Stanton House report?
I think the main message is data and analytics. They're not just a nice bonus anymore.
Yeah.
They're must-haves for businesses, to deal with uncertainty, drive innovation, and stay ahead of the game. And AI is at the center of it all.
AI is definitely having its moment right now. But this report shows it's not just hype, it's really changing how businesses work.
Exactly. And they highlight how Stanton House is actually using AI in their own business. They're walking the walk. And that focus on data readiness is so key. Get that data in shape before you go crazy with AI.
And to your point about staying ahead of the game,
Yeah.
the demand for data and analytics skills is just going to keep growing. So upskilling is key, right? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. You got to be constantly learning in this field. And it's not just tech skills either. The whole AI ethics thing shows companies are realizing they got to think about the ethical side of these powerful technologies.
It's a whole new layer to the data and analytics world.
Mm.
And it kind of makes me wonder, for our listeners out there, given all this, what can you do to stay ahead in this data revolution? What skills do you need? What kind of future do you want to build in this field?
Those are the questions, right? And I'd say check out the full Stanton House Salary Guide for even more insights. It's really a great resource.
It is. And on that note, we'll wrap things up. Thanks for joining us, everyone.